Hey folks, this is Mark Kelly, Inbound Revenue. I'm going to walk you through our keyword planning process this morning. This is how we do keyword research for clients that we're building Google Ads campaigns for. It's going to be a fairly long video with a lot of detail, a lot of talking. So grab some coffee, go to the bathroom, whatever you got to do, and let's dive into that. The first thing I'm going to do is take you into the Google Ads interface. We use the keyword ad planning tool inside of Google Ads in order to do our keyword research. There's other tools out there that you can use, SEMrush, etc. They're all fine. We just use the keyword planner that's built inside of Google because why not? It's proven to be as accurate and as good as anything. It's from Google. It's from Google Ads. Let's use it. So you'll find that on the left-hand side, you'll find a menu option called Tools. There you want to go to Planning and select the Keyword Planner. So once you've selected the Keyword Planner, you're going to want to click on this option, Discover New Keywords. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is set the location to whatever your market area is. I'll show you a couple of options here. You can set it to multiple cities, zips, etc. In this case, you've got the option of Houston, Texas, or Houston, Texas, Nielsen DMA, which just covers a larger area, sort of the surrounding areas. In this case, I'm going to go with the Houston, Texas DMA because it's a pretty reasonable encapsulation of Houston and some of the cities around it. Obviously, if your client doesn't serve all these cities, then you'd want to go with just Houston, or you'd want to start zoning in on some of these smaller cities. I'm going to remove the United States because we don't want to target the whole United States. Then I'm going to say we also want to target College Station just to show you that you can target more than one location with the keyword planner. What you can't do is target a radius. That's something you can do during an actual campaign build, where you could say I want 5 miles around Houston because that's the area that we serve. You can also do exclusions, location exclusions when you're building a campaign where you can exclude certain zip codes, cities, states, zips, whatever. So you can't do that with the keyword planner. Now, what I'm going to do now for the start of my keyword research is I'm going to seed this with a fairly intent-based keyword, but not a super focused keyword. So I'm not going to go with drain cleaning company near me. Now, if the only service that they wanted to offer was drain cleaning, that might be you might go with just drain cleaning. Now, one of the challenges with a keyword phrase like drain cleaning as opposed to plumbing company is there's a lot of products and gadgets and things that will help you with drain cleaning. There's no gadgets or things you can buy at Lowe's for plumbing company. You can't buy a plumbing company at Lowe's or get Drano off of. You get Drano off Amazon, you can't get a plumbing company off Amazon. So this is a good keyword to start with just to get a general sense of what the highest volume, most intent-based search terms you're going to have, keyword phrases you're going to have. So all you do is start with something fairly broad that's relevant and it's intent-based, and then hit Get Results. Boom. So now you'll see the keyword planner start to think here. It's going to give you this little chart at the top that shows you the total search, the mobile search. And then what we're going to do is scroll down here and say, okay, in Houston for plumbing company, there's 880 searches a month. The low bid for the top range is $17. The high bid is $80. That's a big difference, right? But what they're saying is that you could conceivably get on the top of the page with a bid as low as $17. The high range is closer to $80. My guess is that the actual bid will be closer to $80. So those are important numbers to keep in mind. We also have, let's look at the keyword ideas that were generated from plumbing company. Just that one keyword phrase generated pages and pages of ideas. You'll see down here, we've got 10 keywords per page and we've got 750 pages of keywords. So now there's a couple of things you can do there. First of all, you can make this more. Let's do 100. So now we'll have a lot fewer. We'll have a lot fewer pages there. And then let's take a look here. So plumbers near me, that's one of the first ones you're always going to look for. I feel very comfortable with plumbers near me as an intent-based keyword that you want to use if you're targeting just general plumbing services. Because a lot of people, they may know specifically what they need and they may know a plumber does it, so they just search plumber near me. So as opposed to like drain cleaning company near me, they know plumbers clean drains, so plumbers near me. If you're just going after generic, general, I want more leads for my plumber, great keyword to go after. You've got emergency plumber. It's very intent based, and that's going to be a very high cost per click. Why is that? Because it's very intent based. I want a plumber. I'm having an emergency. It's urgent. That one's going to cost more than other ones. Emergency plumber, same way. Now you'll notice plumber has got a lower cost just because it's generic. People aren't sure. It's not as competitive a bid. Now the other thing that I want you to keep in mind when you're looking into keyword research is Google is going to show you things they think are relevant. Keep in mind that if you just went with plumber and you went with something like broad match, you would end up with searches for things like water heater replacement. Some of our plumbing clients love water heater replacements. Some of them don't want to have anything to do with it. So we will not include that in this build. Plumbing services near me, 24-hour plumber near me, local plumbers. Okay, so these are all good search terms. Now you also might want to get into some very specific services like drain cleaning near me. Let's take a look at that. We'll come back to plumbing company and those keywords. So drain cleaning near me, there's still some search volume. This is very specific, so you want to look at these keywords and be careful. Again, if you went with a broad match keyword in your campaign, you're going to end up getting people typing in search terms that will trigger your ad for things like septic tank pumping near me, which is totally different than drain cleaning. So what you want to do is look like, these people are very price specific. Drain cleaning services near me, drain services near me. And you'll see that some of these are extremely competitive. Now, why is that? Just having worked in the plumbing business, I know that sometimes a drain cleaning job can turn into a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 job because the problem isn't at the drain. The problem is somewhere under the concrete, under the foundation, in the front yard, and that can lead to a significant revenue for the company. So that's why they bid so hard on these things. But you can, clog drain near me. There's still some search volume. So these are the types of things that you want to look at as you're looking into specific services. Another one. And I think you can go pretty broad on this one because there's not going to be a lot of search volume. Hydrojetting. Let's see if there's much search volume for that. Hydrojetting is something that you do when you really have a big plumbing problem, and that usually is indicative that you've got an expensive potential job there. So I'm going to share with you now our keyword research spreadsheet that we use and the tabs that we use on that spreadsheet. So right here you can see that keyword research tab, and then we've also got two other tabs on here. So we've got an ad copy tab, and then we've got a negative keyword tab, and that negative keyword tab has two components, negative keywords and competitors. I'll walk into that a little bit later. So let's look at keyword research first. So in the keyword research tab, we've got a number of columns. We've got ad group. That's something that we put in there based on what we know the client wants, because at this phase, we're going to start thinking about single themed ad groups that we want to create in our campaign, and we'll categorize the keywords that way. This is the actual keyword. This is the search volume. These are the numbers that we saw in the keyword planner, the top of page low and top of page high, and then you'll top of page low, top of page high. And then what we do is we do a calculation. We add the top of page low and the top of page high together, and we divide that by 2. And that gives us an average cost per click. And if we're starting with something like manual CPC, or we want to get a general idea of where our click costs are going to end up, that calculation does that for us. Now, you could use a different calculation. You could take 80% of the high range. You don't want to jump in typically bidding the highest possible number. You want to bid a number that is going to get you visibility, but you don't necessarily want to pay the most amount possible on every bid. So that's how that works. Now, what I'm going to do is bounce you over to a keyword document that has already been filled out mostly. And I'm just going to shortcut this process so you don't have to see me build out every keyword phrase and every ad group. But this is going to give you a real good idea of how we build these single themed ad groups out. So again, here's the ad group in this column. So I've added one for general plumbing and emergency plumbing, but you can see existing. We've already got drain cleaning near me. And what we did in this case is we took all the relevant keywords that had to do with drains and seemed intent-based and used near me and put them into one single themed ad group. Then we took all the drain cleaning service keywords and we put them into a different ad group. Now, in this case, you have to make some decisions because we've got some emergency drain cleaning, and up here we've got emergency plumbing. But I would probably leave them in the drain cleaning because they're more relevant to that. There's going to be a separate set of keywords for emergency plumber. Might only be 2 or 3 keywords, but we'll grab them. And then you can see we've got a separate ad group here for hydrojetting. And really all we did was, as we did our keyword research, we thought ahead of the services that this particular client wanted to focus on. Now, in this case, this is a campaign that did not include general plumbing terms or emergency plumbing terms. They were very specific to drain cleaning and drain repair and things of that nature. So that's why this is already built out with these keywords. And you'll notice here that we've got the top of page low range, top of page bid high range, and the average. So here we've got the low at 25, the high at about 80, and the average coming out to $52. What we do then at the bottom of this page is I just threw an average formula in here to average out the click cost for all of these. So on average, if our calculation is correct, our assumption is correct, on average, you're going to spend about $51 a click. Now, why is that important? Because when you're thinking through your budget, you're thinking through your daily budget, and someone says, I want to run, a search campaign for plumbing in Houston. I want to spend $3,000. Then you have to stop and say, that's going to get you potentially 2 clicks. Is that enough? Probably not. So you want to look at a realistic budget at that point. I want to get at least 10 clicks a day, so that might be a $300 a day budget. $10,000 might be what you have to pay to play in this market. Now, there's other approaches that you can use to kind of fudge that a little bit and try to get a lower cost per click for less relevant keyword terms, but we're assuming at this point that we're going for the most relevant search terms, keyword phrases that we can target in the market, and we're willing to pay whatever those keywords cost, because we know that yes, we're going to get some $500 jobs, but we know we're going to get some $25,000 jobs as well. So that's the logic there. So let's go in and just grab a few keywords for general plumbing and emergency plumbing. So I'm going to go back to the keyword planner. I'm going to type in here plumbing company. Again, don't look at my spelling. I'm going to get results. I'm going to do these individually. Plumbing, different than emergency plumbing. So plumbing company, I'm just going to grab this keyword phrase and I'm going to drop it into our general plumbing. I'm only going to put about 3 or 4 of these in each one so you can just see the process that we use. That's got 880 searches a month. Low is 1750. High is 7982. I'm going to grab that, and that gives us an average of 48.89. I'm going to delete those out of there because they can screw with your average at the end. Then you can come back in here. Actually, you should probably put everything on the same line, which I didn't. So let's put that on the right line. So now you can see how we did that. You can come back and clean up your formatting if you want to. I'm not going to do it for the purposes of this video. Okay, so here's plumbers near me. We're going to grab that. We're going to throw that in here. That's got a whole bunch of search. So that's got 18,000 searches a month. We want to grab those, drop them in here. Now, are there other ways to do this? Absolutely, 100%. We do this way for a number of reasons, because we are process driven and we want the same process, and because in many cases we are presenting keyword research to our clients. And you'll see a little bit of that later on in this video. We're presenting keyword research to our clients, so we want to make sure that we can present something to them that they can then go in, review, and make suggestions, improvements, etc. So there we've grabbed a few of those. You can see we have a lot of other terms that we might use, and then if we were going after water heater replacement, we'd create a separate ad group for that. That makes sense, right? So let's grab just a couple more. Plumbing services near me. That one makes sense. 720 impressions a month in this region. Then we'll grab the click costs. 2037 and 8820. Then I'll do the averaging. Again, you can see my click costs are going to be really high in this niche, in this area. Now let's go back and fill in a little bit on emergency plumber. I'll grab a few of those. You won't have to see me build out every single keyword to understand the strategy that we're taking, how we're building out these single themed ad groups. Now, back in the day, we used to do single keyword ad groups. Now you theme everything primarily because the way that Google match types work. Since Google match types, whoops, I forgot a couple of things. Google doesn't provide you with the exact match type anymore. Exact match is more like similar to. Phrase match, I say, is just competitor match because it brings up all your competitors, and I'll walk you through that problem and how to solve that a little bit later. And then broad match is just like anything you could possibly think of is going to show up in broad match. Amazing how much stuff they'll display. That's where if you have emergency plumber, they'll end up putting, hot water heat replacement, and you don't want that if you're trying to pay for emergency plumber types of keywords. Now, one of the things you'll notice, sometimes there's exact duplication on the searches and the top of page bid and the top of page bid low and high. And so my assumption is that the numbers in the planner are not always 100% accurate. And you can actually prove that by going in and downloading this information. You can download these keyword ideas. And what you'll find is that they'll give you a breakdown in the Excel file that they give you. They'll give you a breakdown of these month by month. And if you sum up the 12 months, it doesn't add up to their average monthly, it doesn't average out to their average monthly searches. So, these numbers might be a little hinky, but in the end, they're the best that we have to go with. So that's what we go with. Okay, so I'm going to copy that formula down. I'm going to see, these are some pretty expensive, these emergency plumbing. You can see even the average is much higher than some of the other types. And then if you come to the bottom of the page, I'm going to use the average option. There it is. And then I'm going to average everything up to here. And we'll see what our average cost per click is. $51. I don't let these zeros in here, the formula fill in, because those zeros will impact your average and lower it. Then you'll get numbers that aren't right. Now, if you want to, you can clean up all your formatting. For our case, we don't really care here. Now, I'm going to take you to our second tab, which is our ad copy tab. So here in this ad copy tab, this is something that we often present to clients. So we put this in this format, and it also helps us by seeing this character count over here, whether the headlines that we put here and the descriptions we put here are actually going to fit when it comes to Google Ads because of character limits. So a couple of thoughts here. One is we've got all our headlines, and we try to include as many headlines as possible. Google Ads likes that. There is a place to enter the path. The path is something that you can add to your ad copy so that while your landing page might be, HoustonPlumbing.com, you can do HoustonPlumbing.com/bestplumber, that sort of thing. It just gives you a little more place to put some oomph in your ad copy. Down here, these descriptions are up to 90 characters. I just have client name in here. So you would fill that in with, Joe's Plumbing, whatever the case may be. And then down here, we add some of the extensions, some of the most common extensions that we'll use. So we write in potential call outs. We write in potential site links, include the URL when we have that and we're dealing with a real client. And then structured snippets. There are different types of structured snippets. And then we just list out what we would list there. And that gives you a good set of ad copy, starting ad copy, and then all of your extensions, etc. So this is kind of a tool that we use internally, and it's actually a really good tool to then use this as to build out your campaign with. Because even though you're going to want to change your ad copy depending on which single theme ad group you're in, so your ad copy is going to be different for general plumbing than it is for drain cleaning, but a lot of your ad copy may very well stay the same from ad group to ad group. So you might want to still say, licensed plumbing expert, reliable drain cleaning. It's just your headlines and things that you're going to want to change. So you make your headlines extremely relevant to the themed ad group that you're in. So Houston's #1 drain expert is very relevant for drain cleaning, drain services, but not so relevant for general plumbing. So that's where you would switch that up. So this is like only one example of one ad. We present it to the client in some cases when we're presenting keyword research so that they can kind of say, oh, okay, I agree with all this. This is especially useful if you're working in a niche that's not one that you're comfortable working in or that has a lot of rules and things, but it gets you some buy-in from the client. So you can say, hey, we submitted ad copy to you and you approved it. And it also lets you think through your ad copy and gives you a guide for when you're actually building out the campaign, some of the things that you want to include in your ad copy. So we're always looking to include numbers in our ads. In this case, we'd want to have like a $99 special or something like that. We just went with #1. Anything that makes your ad stand out and be more interesting is what you want to include here. So that's a little spreadsheet that we use, and this will automatically calculate, like this is too long because it's 91 characters, and that will only hold 90 characters. So you have to, take something out of this to meet the 90 characters. So that's just a handy little tool to help you. You can do this and you just copy and paste it. Now, what I'm going to walk you through here finally, at the very last 5 minutes or so of this video, is negative keywords. So negative keywords, we're going to do other videos in our quick click series on negative keywords, and we'll talk about exactly how to build out negative keyword lists, because typically I like to use them at the account level so that you can then assign them to campaigns. You can also set them at the campaign level and at the ad group level. But negative keywords are essentially keywords that if Google sees someone search using those keywords, they will not display your ad. Because a perfect example of the type of negative keyword that you want is job. Someone's searching for a plumbing job. Unless you're hiring, you don't want to pay for that click. And if you want to pay for that click, it's a different campaign, different ad group than plumbing services. So job, class, there's a lot of types of general keywords. Most of our clients try to avoid things like cheap. So you'd want these in here. And then there's a separate set of keywords that you're going to want to stay away from, and that is competitors. So competitors, once you move, depending on the match type that you use for your keyword phrases, and there's 3 different match types now: exact match, phrase match, broad match. Exact match gets you as close as possible to the things that people are searching, matching the keyword phrase that you have put in your campaign. So that's going to be the most similar to your actual keywords if you're using exact match. If you move to phrase match in order to get more search volume, maybe cheaper clicks, what's going to happen is all of your competitors are going to start showing up. Someone's going to type Jane's plumbing service and your ad is going to trigger, and they're going to click on it, and then they're going to call you, and then they're going to say, oh, I wanted to reach Joe's plumbing service. And you get a lot of those. Mostly because most local service businesses include the service in their name. So if you're Jill's Plumbing Service and Joe's Plumbing Service, someone types plumbing service and you're using phrase match or broad match, Google is very likely to show your ad. So you want to build out a list of negative competitors, and I'll show you how to do that. So some of the negative keywords, you can get a list of like the basic negative keywords that you want to have in every campaign. Again, job, class, cheap, free, etc., etc. But to get specific negative keywords, we're going to go back to our keyword planning tool, and we're just going to sort of slowly roll through some of the keyword phrases that were identified here. So maybe you want to make sure you never end up with a water heater, water heater click. So we'll just drop water heater in there. So you're scrolling now through the search terms that Google identified and saying, what are things I would never want my ad to show for? Because if you run emergency plumbing, your ad will show for these things. Gas leak repair may not be something that you want to have anything to do with. Your ad will show for that. So that's where you add these negative keywords like this. The other thing that you want to look for, I'm going to change this back to plumbing company to make it a little more generic, to help make my point a little bit easier on finding competitors. So I've gone ahead and I'm going after plumbing company, and now I'm going to start scrolling down. One of the first things that you see is a competitor name. That's a competitor that you want to include in a negative keyword list. Actually, all you really have to do is, as a broad match, drop in AAA. Anytime Google sees AAA in the search, whether it's AAA Plumbing, AAA Brothers, AAA Plumber, it will not display your ad because you use this as a broad match in a negative keyword. There's another thing that you could use that for. You could, if you wanted to target, if you wanted to run a competitor's campaign so that every time someone's typed in one of your competitors' names, your ad showed up, you could also use this list for a competitor's campaign. But most people use this to avoid having their ad show and getting clicked on by people who do not intend to find you. They intend to find one of your competitors, and they're literally just searching their name. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this next keyword phrase, affordable plumbing, and why that's so tricky. Everyone wants affordable plumbing, right? Yeah, we don't want expensive, crazy, expensive, out of our mind, costly plumbing. We want affordable plumbing. However, there's a very good chance that there is an affordable plumbing company in your market space. This is very often a company name as opposed to a description of a type of plumbing. So you really want to search in your market area to see if there is an affordable plumbing company. In that case, then you have to decide how to handle this. If there was an affordable plumbing company, I would probably do something like, that's a little trickier. Maybe you do that as you can't just do affordable. Well, maybe you just make a decision whether you want that to show or not. It's not a ton of search volume, and it's 200 searches a month. So you might just make a decision to phrase match that out so that you never show up for that. Or you could just do affordable and you'd never show up for any search term that had affordable in it. So you really have to look at like superior plumbing. My guess again is that this is a competitor. Superior, like everyone wants superior plumbing, but it's not how most people talk. Boy, I'd love to have a superior plumbing company come over here. My guess is that's a competitor. And then, here's we already have cheap. We could just do gas. We could just do gas instead of, if we're not working with anything gas related, we could just do gas. Actually, just do gas here. And then we don't need, the leak repair. If we're not doing anything with gas, you can negative all of them out. Yeah, so that's an example. Now, what you can do is you can scroll this thing the whole way down to the bottom. You can revert. You can just go to the last page, essentially. And when you get to that last page, you're going to see a lot of junk down here. This is where you're going to see a lot of competitors' names. So now we grab AJ's and we add that to our negative keyword for competitors. And then we add Avante. And we're building out this negative keyword, which I'll typically drop into a separate keyword list at the account level and call it competitors keyword and apply it to the campaign. It could be part of the negative keyword list for the campaign. It could be all in one negative keyword list. It's just cool to have that list of competitors in there and identified separately. And there's just going to be a lot of them. Now, some of them, like the plumbing company, how do you negative that out? Fortunately, it's only 10 searches a month. But the problem with these, even though SK Plumbing and Heating is only 10 searches and H and A is only 10 searches, you're going to see 100 of your competitors in your own search terms. And if you don't know what search terms are, watch another video. I'll cover it there. But essentially, that's how we build out our keyword research. This is how we get an idea of what the cost per click is going to be. And obviously, you might run max clicks. You might set a max click to pay. But it's real. You're not necessarily going to run manual CPC, though it's very viable still as an option to do. But this is going to give you an idea of what the real world is paying for these clicks. And this is an average. This is adding the low and the high and dividing. You may find that you had to bump your keyword bids up from like these numbers. 40 might not be enough to compete in a market where people are willing to spend $68 on a click. So you might have to bump them up. That's a discovery process at the beginning of the campaign. So anyway, that's the whole process of using that keyword planning tool to build out your keyword research. In our case, we have 3 tabs. We have the keyword research, the ad copy, and the negatives. Hopefully this was useful. If you have any questions, drop them below. You can find me at inboundrevenue.com or on Facebook or on Twitter, even LinkedIn, or just leave comments here on YouTube. I'd appreciate if you subscribe, leave comments, give it a like. Tell me if this is useful, and I'll keep producing more of it.